Have you ever felt the weight of uttering, for the thousandth time, the silent phrase, "I'll start tomorrow"? It's not just a harmless promise you make before going to sleep. It is a deep psychological trap, an invisible labyrinth that the philosopher Epicurus had already mapped out 2,000 years ago. He used to say that one of the greatest evils of the human soul is to be perpetually in the dress rehearsal of life, always preparing to begin living. If you are stuck in this cycle right now, take a deep breath. What I am about to reveal to you is not a judgment, it is the anatomy of your own mind. Modern science, through 2 decades of studies by researcher Janet Polivy, has given a name to this illusion, the false hope syndrome. It works exactly like a spell you cast upon yourself. You create an unrealistic projection, an almost magical expectation that when you wake up tomorrow, you will be a completely different entity. This time it will work, you decree. But when the density of matter resists and you inevitably slip, the fall doesn't just return you to your old behavior, it cements into your subconscious the limiting belief that you are fundamentally incapable of change. It's a vicious cycle of pain. You promise with fervor, you fail, you are consumed by guilt, you promise again with an even more desperate intensity, and you fail with an even greater crash. Many people give up at this exact point, believing they lack willpower. But the structural error here is that you are treating change as an explosive event, when in fact, it is an organic process. You demand that your brain ignore billions of neural connections forged in the fire of habit over years and magically install a new operating system overnight. Your mind doesn't work that way. The solution, which neuroscience has already validated, requires you to abandon the fantasy of the perfect fresh start. Instead of starting from zero, with every stumble, you just need to continue. If you slipped and ate something off your plan or lost focus in your routine, your next move is not to declare that the day is already lost. The only question the universe expects from you is, what is the highest frequency choice I can make in this exact second? This isn't mere motivational speech. In-depth studies, like those by Philippa Lally, prove that the true architects of their own reality aren't the ones who never make mistakes. They are the ones who treat failures as dust on the road, as a natural part of neural restructuring. Those who understand this have an absurdly higher success rate in shaping their own personality than those who treat any deviation as a catastrophe that demands a do-over. Think about the vibrational math of your mind. You are not here to be flawless. You are here to tip the scales in your favor. If you can keep 60% of your choices aligned with your greater goal, you are already in full progress, building your ascension. But if, with every mistake, you reset your own scoreboard, you condemn yourself to living at the base of the mountain. Imagine you are structuring a large project, perhaps writing a practical manual with hundreds of high-impact actions for your own financial and personal sovereignty. You stay strong all morning, aligned. After lunch, you yield to distraction for 2 hours. What does your old self whisper? Since I lost the afternoon, I'll numb myself for the rest of the day, and tomorrow, I'll try to be disciplined. Science calls this the what the hell effect. It's what researchers discovered in the classic milkshake experiment. Dieters who were induced to drink a glass of milkshake ended up eating 3 times as much ice cream shortly after, simply because their brains declared that the day was already ruined. The same happens if you are trying to manage your risks, whether in your life, your studies, or even trading in the financial market. If you break your 1% risk rule and suffer a loss, the impulse is not to stop. It's to over-leverage and destroy the rest, because the rule has already been broken. What is happening inside your head at this moment is an electromagnetic war. When you break a self-imposed rule, your prefrontal cortex, the center of your higher consciousness and self-control, enters a state of cognitive dissonance so unbearable that it simply shuts down. Who takes control of the ship is your limbic system, your scared and primitive inner child, who only understands 2 languages, seeking immediate pleasure or fleeing immediate pain. And to relieve the pain of your supposed failure, it throws you headfirst into the anesthetic pleasure of excess. But there is a quantum antidote for this. Researchers at the University of Pennsylvania discovered the power of temporal landmarks instead of looking at your 24 hours as a solid, fragile block of glass that, if cracked, needs to be thrown away. You will slice your time. Create multiple horizons for fresh starts within the same day. There is your morning, your afternoon, your early evening. Did you lose 2 hours of focus? Great. Acknowledge the rubble. But at 3 in the afternoon, a new portal opens. The day wasn't ruined. You just had an unproductive block, and now the quantum field offers you a new blank page. Your prefrontal cortex can process and digest small stumbles without collapsing. This isn't self-deception. It's hacking the way your biology processes reality. And here, we enter the core of your transformation, consciousness. The absolute majority of your sabotages happen in the dark of the unconscious. You don't need to fight against negative behavior, you just need to illuminate it. Neuroscientist Judson Brewer proved this at MIT with longtime smokers. He didn't tell them to fight the addiction. He said, "Smoke, but when you do, bring all your attention, all your focus to the act. Feel it, observe it, be present." The result? This method was 5 times more effective than any conventional chemical treatment. Why? Because when you bring the light of consciousness to a mechanical habit, you awaken your anterior cingulate cortex. It is the sacred alarm of your mind that warns you when your actions are out of tune with your true essence. This awakening happens in 4 levels of spiritual and mental mastery. At level 1, you notice the damage only after the storm has passed. At level 2, you wake up in the middle of the chaos and realize, I am sabotaging my time right now. At level 3, your antenna becomes finer. You feel the magnetic impulse of sabotage being born in your chest before acting. And at level 4, you become the unwavering observer. You feel the impulse and consciously choose. Every time you do this, you are not just changing a habit, you are literally thickening the gray matter of your brain, expanding the hardware of your self-control. But don't demand to be at level 4 today. Celebrate the simple fact of noticing. Consciousness is not the final destination, it is the path itself. When you become truly conscious, continuing in error becomes biologically and spiritually unbearable. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, carved a timeless truth in his meditations. Tell me what, in this exact present moment, is unbearable. You will be ashamed of the answer. Your suffering is rarely caused by the density of the now. It is fabricated by the stories you inject into the present moment. Neuroscientist Antonio Damasio explains that our brain is a fantastic machine for simulating tragic futures and ruminating on painful pasts. When you lay your head on the pillow and visualize your financial ruin or an imminent failure, your body doesn't know it's just imagination. It floods your blood with the same stress and panic hormones as if the lion were already in the room. You suffer in advance. You take a challenge that would last half an hour and turn it into weeks of cellular agony. Quantum physics, through the words of physicist Carlo Rovelli, shows us something even deeper. Linear time is an illusion of the mind. The past, present, and future coexist in the field. The now is simply the focal point of your consciousness. Therefore, when mental chaos begins, do not ask yourself what is bothering you in your life. Ask yourself, what, in this exact second of breathing, is actually unbearable. You will discover that the raw present, stripped of your fear of tomorrow, is always, at the very least, a place of manageable peace. And here, I need to ask you a question that will crack your old foundation. How many of the castles you are trying to build are truly yours? Psychologist Tim Kasser discovered, after 20 years of research, that most people spend their lives chasing extrinsic goals, status, the blind accumulation of money, titles to prove something to others. When they reach the top, they discover with horror that they climbed the wrong mountain. It is the exhausted adult trying to fulfill the fantasy of acceptance from when they were a teenager. It is what the philosopher René Girard calls mimetic desire. You don't want it. You only want it because you saw someone else wanting it. And when you get it, the prize is hollow. Neuroscience is clear. Only intrinsic purposes, your growth, your true virtue, genuine contribution, sustain the frequency of dopamine and real happiness. If you carry resentments, listen closely. If someone hurts you today, the act lasts for seconds, but by holding on to that offense, you create what psychology calls the injustice gap. Every time you ruminate on the memory, retelling the story of your own victimhood, your brain triggers physical pain centers. You traumatize yourself voluntarily, again, again, and again. Nelson Mandela knew this when he stated that resentment is like drinking poison and waiting for the enemy to die. You dysregulate your own hormonal axis, inflame your body, and block your flow of abundance. Forgiveness, here, is not an act of weakness. It is your radical refusal to continue drinking poison. It is describing what happened without the weight of the drama, re-anchoring your mind in the prefrontal cortex, the seat of the architect. You must give yourself permission to be misunderstood by the outside world, as long as your internal coherence remains untouched. This whole orchestra of science and spirit converges into a single law. Stop trying to magically start over and simply continue from where you are. James Clear mapped out that a 1% consistent improvement collapses time, making you 37 times more powerful in a year. Those who try to change 100% at once tear their own spiritual muscles, fail, and remain at the bottom of the valley, now heavier with guilt. The sacred secret is not perfection. It is silent persistence. As the Sufi mystic Rumi said, try not to resist the changes that come your way. Instead, let life live through you, and do not worry that your life is turning upside down. How do you know that the side you are used to is better than the one to come? It is the fluidity of water that Taoism teaches us. It is the deep faith that the humbled will be exalted, not by divine punishment, but because the act of emptying oneself of ego and surrendering control to a higher force is what allows for your elevation. Every mistake is just feedback from the quantum field. Your brain's neuroplasticity has no expiration date. It awaits your consistency, not your desperate intensity. Your job today is simple. Look at the area of your life where you keep breaking and promising to start over tomorrow. Change the rule of the game right now. Don't seek the flawless day. Seek to make 51% luminous choices, and when you slip into the shadow, because physical density demands it, your response will no longer be, tomorrow I'll try again. Your response will be, what is the master move I can make in this exact second? This video found you because your antenna was already ready to catch this frequency. The right moment is not a point in the future, it is this exact breath. If your chest recognizes the truth behind these words, if you are ready to abandon the rehearsal and step onto the main stage of your existence, subscribe to this channel. We are a community of awakened minds who have stopped begging the universe and started architecting our own reality. Leave your like as a seal of commitment to your new frequency and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next activations. The miracle is already yours, and tomorrow is just an illusion. Your transformation happens now.